Hi, my name's Mike Burton, and I'm a professional comic book artist. I'm currently working on the book London Gothic, and in this video series I'm going to take you through my entire process from start to finish of how I create the pages for London Gothic. We're going to cover everything from the thumbnailing, the penciling, the inking, the colouring and the lettering. In this first video we're going to focus on the thumbnailing and the penciling. I'll talk about what equipment I use and my thought processes going into each section, and you'll get to see the finished product. The next video will follow on with the inking, and then there'll be another part for the colouring and the lettering. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the thumbnailing process and my thought process going into it. So generally I'd recommend that you thumbnail out an entire scene. I haven't done this on this one, I've done 2 pages, but you should at least do 2 pages. Generally I think it's best to do the whole scene because you want to know how that scene plays out, because you don't want to end a scene halfway through a page. So you want to plan it out to make sure you've got everything in it. It depends on the script you're working with, because you could be working with a script that's very locked down. It knows exactly what they want from each page. With this one, the script is a little bit more free, so I'm able to decide on the amount of pages and the page layout myself, which is very useful, but it's also something that you have to be thinking about as you're doing your thumbnailing process. So if we look at this, we're looking at the script here. So this is supposed to be all of page 1. Now the script was written before we decided that we were going to have these sort of location images at the start, so that takes up one of the panels anyway. So we only had to get to this point on page 1 in this thumbnail. So I need to know that the rest of it can be fit into the page count that's in the scene, or that I'm okay to actually increase the page numbers, which I am able to do on this, which is it's very freeing in a lot of sense. You will have more restrictions if the script is more detailed and more set in stone. But to talk through some of the processes that I sort of went through. So what I'll do is, generally I'm not entirely sure if I've got a full idea of what the page is going to look like before I actually put pencil to paper. I just start drawing, and sometimes I'll have to do multiple drafts of the same page, thumbnailing, to get it right. Once I start, so I did this first, if we ignore the top one, I did this first panel, and I got an idea of where I wanted this to go, and I'm thinking about the viewer's eye line. So I'm thinking about where the speech bubbles are going to go, making sure I've got something in the foreground and the background to make it look more dramatic, and this character's eye line's looking upwards. Now originally you see this circle and this arrow. I was actually thinking I want to bring these down a little bit, these 2 characters here. So just for compositional reasons, I ended up not going with that. I ended up thinking that it was actually better to have the eye line go up and then come across onto this next panel, so we can see this guy shooting towards here. Now I did that first, so I did the first panel, and then I sort of got the idea for this one, and then I did a breakout image of it. So I just found some other place on the page just to think about the posture that I wanted. I want to get across this exhaustion in the character. So I just had a little go with it, because this is my blueprint. This is me just sort of experimenting a little bit to see, is this how I want him to be? And then I dropped it in, because, I don't have to redraw this all over again or rub bits out, things like that. The next image, I wanted him running away from them. So I was thinking of a side view, but then that wouldn't work very well in the space of the panel. So I drew that out, and I thought, it's not very dynamic. It's not what I want. So I did another breakout this way with him sort of running towards the viewer. And that didn't feel quite right. I kind of wanted to get the eye line to move diagonally down into this next panel. So I did another one. And then I thought, yep, that's going to work. It's got the direction that I want. So I dropped that one in. And then the eye lines come in this way, and it was important for me that I wanted the character to be moving towards the edge of the cliff, and because he's sort of stopped, I want the viewer's eye line to sort of come across, go this way with him, and then be bounced back from that page. So it's almost like the viewer's eye line does the same motion to some degree as he's doing. It comes up and then it goes down, and I wasn't sure where I wanted the speech bubble to go, but having the speech bubble up here sort of interfered with that sort of motion. So this explosion and this character moving in this direction sort of gets our eye to go this way, and then that missing means that we look and there's empty space. There's nothing there, so the eye line comes back because it has to read the next speech bubble. So this was, I thought, right, this is what I'm going for. But then I went through and did the next page because I want to see how that one links on to the next one and whether or not I can get across everything that I need to in the next one and that flows. So I need to know that this panel flows nicely into the next page. Now these pages aren't adjacent because this is an odd page, so it's going to be on the right, and it's just going to be black on this side because this is the first page. So we're going to turn the page, and then we're going to see this, which is important because when it's a turn, when the page is turned, it's a reset. So the person will start looking up here right again. So to begin with, so it's important to think about. You need to keep in consideration the fact that you've got the page turn. So the other thing you can do with that, if you want like a reveal or a cliffhanger or something like a tiny little cliffhanger, you can do that on a page turn to get the person to turn the next page. You know, it could be something where someone says, turns around and goes, "Who are you?" like that, and then they have to turn the page to see who it is. It's like a little tiny mini cliffhanger. So all those little things you can try and do as you go through, they're all little victories. Now, what some people will do after they've thumbnailed one page, they'll decide to do another thumbnail but larger. So they'll increase it in size and do it larger. I don't tend to do that. I go straight into the main penciling straight from that point. Now, one thing that you might find, if you've worked particularly, like when I was younger, I always used to draw at A4 size, and I never used to do anything at A3 or larger or anything like that. If you do a lot of small drawing, and then you're now drawing at a larger scale, what you'll find is you'll draw all your characters too small, and you'll get your thumbnail will look dynamic and dramatic, and then your main image will be missing something and it won't seem as dramatic. And what it is that you've drawn everything slightly smaller. So everything that seems large in your thumbnail will not be as large on the main page. It's just a mental block. Now, one way you can get around that is you can just break up, put some guidelines on your thumbnail. So you can just, like you can see, I've done it on this final panel here. I wanted to get the location of the character and to get the composition right. So I've just split it up into three. I did it by eye. It's about right, and then I could then draw those lines onto the actual main paper before I draw the character, and then I know, okay, well, his head is halfway through this line, so that's, and it's about that far down. So you've got a comparison there. You can go really detailed with it. You can break it up into however many squares as you want to get it as accurate as you want it to be, and then you can measure it out and just increase it in the same ratio. If you have a problem with that, over time you'll get used to it and you'll be able to draw at a higher size. But if it's your first time sort of drawing at super size for like comic books, that might be something you run into. I did. But yeah, in time you'll get used to increasing the size of everything at the right ratio. But yeah, use that if you start to find that happens with your artwork. So let's talk about paper. So the paper that I use for drawing the comic book, the actual proper pages, is this Strathmore Bristol board, the smooth. And it's lined, it's got non-photo blue lines on there, guidelines for comic book usage, so it just helps you with your live area and the trim marks and things like that. They're not actually accurate for you know what I do because I work at A4, but I still find it it helpful, and it's also easier to sort of keep the artwork within a size that if we ever did want to print at the American size, we can do that, and I'm not like having to adjust the artwork too much. It's a little bit indulgent because really this stuff is designed for inking, because you need quite heavyweight paper and it needs to be quite smooth to get the inks to sit properly on the paper. And what paper you use is really important. It is indulgent to use it just for pencils because I ink digitally, but it has come down in price. It used to be very expensive many years ago, but now it's not that expensive to get hold of. Although this one in particular is kind of difficult to get hold of. I'd pay quite a lot for these. Because I don't think they produce these anymore, but they've got lots of other different versions. The reason why I do it is because, one, I like it. It's a nice material to draw on, and also we sell the art, so we sell the actual original pencils, so people can buy them, and it looks a lot more professional if it's on proper comic book paper. It's a bit of a nicer product for someone than it just be, just a regular A3 piece of paper that I've drawn on. So yeah, so that's why I use it. You don't need it. You don't need it, but if you don't use it, you are going to be wasting a lot of time drawing out guides on your paper. You're going to be having to work out exactly the right size. I mean, if that's important to you. I mean, obviously, you can, if you're inking digitally, you can adjust it and things like that. But if you are inking traditionally, I highly recommend you get this. It will take your art to the next level. As for pencils, I use a Rotring Tiki 0.5 mechanical pencil. It's refillable. It's the only one I use. I don't use any harder pencils or softer pencils or anything like that. It's not really necessary for drawing comic books. I mean, some people might use it, but since I'm inking myself, I don't need to be really strict with the line weights as to inform the inker because I'm doing it myself. So I just use that one pencil throughout the whole process. I use a drawing board, super essential drawing board, particularly for comic book art, because at that size, you need it at that angle to be viewing it basically straight on, because you're looking downwards. So the bottom of if the paper's flat on your desk, the bottom of the paper is closer to you than the top of the paper, and because of foreshortening, when you draw the image, you're going to be drawing an image at a basically 45-degree angle, because that's the angle of your face looking down at it, on a flat surface. So when you pick that paper up, everything's going to be slightly warped. It's not as noticeable at like A4, or if you're drawing small. If you're drawing large, you're going to tell straight away, and it's more comfortable to use a drawing board as well. I also have a USB light that I plug into my computer that's got it's got an arm on it, so it attaches to my desk, and it's just a strip light. It can do white light, blue light, and an amber light, which is great because as a comic book artist, you're probably going to be working really late at night at times, and you want sort of more of a tungsten light so that you're not disturbing your circadian rhythm. So when you get to bed, you can actually sleep, ready for the next day of drawing. So here I decided that I wasn't happy with the position of this character. I'd done it the same way I'd done it in the thumbnail, and it just wasn't selling it. Seeing it larger, the position looked too neutral. I was trying to get across two modes of direction from the character in this image, which was complicated. I wanted him to be almost sliding to a stop, so he's going forwards, but he's trying to pull himself back from the edge. So seeing that, I grabbed a fresh piece of paper and redid the image, a new one, to see how I could make it look better by moving the upper body further back, and also by increasing the perspective. I wanted his head to be bigger in comparison to his feet, because I really wanted to sell that this is a shot looking downwards, because we're looking over the edge of a cliff, and that's the whole point of the scene. Is this man is almost falling off a cliff, and so if I'm not selling the fact that we're really high up, the panel hasn't done its job. So again, don't be afraid to abandon elements of your thumbnail if you've got a better idea. You can always go back to the thumbnailing process during the drawing of the actual page if it makes for a better product in the end. Here I'm just looking up some reference. So the scene calls for 2 British soldiers to be chasing this character, and the soldiers are from the 1800s. So I don't know what they look like. So I'm looking up the uniforms so that I can make them accurate. We like to have things as factually accurate as they can be in London Gothic. So we do a lot of research, but you're always going to be better if you look up a reference. Even if you're doing things that you've created yourself, you can always look at elements and look at get inspiration from things, and it's always going to improve your artwork. It's incredibly useful when you're doing something that's set in a certain period, because very few people are ever going to check up on you to make sure if it's right, but there'll be reasons why a soldier wore a particular band across his chest or a particular pouch on his side, and although that you might not know why, or the reader might not know why, it makes logical sense subconsciously because it was there for a reason. So you don't have to know exactly why everything is the way it is, but it comes across, and some people will pick up on the amount of research that you've done, and it really doesn't take that long. It's just a quick Google search away. So and even for anything else, if it's a location, looking up images of that location, it's completely free, and it just makes your artwork better. And you might see something, it might inspire you, and it'll just improve your art overall. When I'm doing the page, I lay everything out with nice light lines. I don't focus on any detail, not even really hair of a character. I just block out the full page so I can see it overall and see how it looks, because if you start to the danger is if you start going into detail, you sort of fall in love a little bit with that panel, and also you've invested a lot of time into it and you don't want to throw that time away. So you want to put as little time as possible just getting it down so you can see where the elements are, so you can see what the layout's like, and you'll notice things that you go, oh no, that would be better like this. But if you've spent a long time on that panel, you're not going to notice it. You're not going to want to notice it. So I do that, and then I go in and I start to render it. I start to put in more detail, and I build up the lines gradually from there. And there's no set order to the way round that I do it or what I draw. You're supposed to start at the top left and work your way down so you don't smudge your pencils, but I just start wherever it feels the most fun, and then I just sort of go wherever I want to, really. So you can see there I'm just using a piece of paper to stop my hand from smudging any of the pencil marks whilst I'm working at the higher parts of the paper where I've already done some of the drawing low down. The pencil I use and the paper itself, it doesn't smudge that much, but you can end up picking up a bit of pencil marks on your hand, and then can just end up making it a bit messy. I have seen some people use sort of like a smudge guard, like a special glove type thing, but a blank piece of paper does the job. So I'm just rendering the pencil marks here and getting them nice and clean and ready. There is a temptation when you're inking yourself to not render the pencil marks that much and then fill in the details more during the inking process. But I found when I do more of the rendering in pencil, the end product is just always better. Obviously, it depends. You have to find your own workflow. Some people can ink straight away without any pencil, so you have to find what works best for you. We have a lot of things available to us to help speed up the process of creating artwork, but it is a very time-consuming process. And unfortunately, some of those things that you might be thinking are actually speeding up the process are actually, hindering your artwork. So I basically, I render the pencils. Pretty much, I wouldn't do much more to them if I was passing them off to another inker. And I just find that ends up with a better end product for me. I haven't quite decided on these two center panels as to where I want to separate the panels. I'm pretty sure at this point that I want to have the arm of the character on the right to be overlapping the other panel, but I'm not sure where I want that cut off to be. So I've just left it because I'm inking out and be dropping the borders in later. I'm going to leave it until I get it in there, and then I can play around with the rectangle and get the lines how I want them, and then I can just do it by eye there, rather than dropping some lines in here and then having to rub them out in order to move the line, a couple of millimeters to see what works best for the page. We'll go more into detail about this during the inking video, but you can see there I'm starting to drop in weight lines. So I'm thickening up lines in certain places in order to denote where they are in sort of the z-axis, so the depth of the page. So things that are in the foreground that are maybe overlapping the background, I'm putting in a darker, thicker line, and it gives that illusion that that element is closer towards the viewer than the things in the background. It's one of those tricks that you can use in order to sell the 3D element, because it's a 2D image and we're doing something that photography doesn't do either. We're drawing a 3-dimensional image on a 2D flat plane. If you do it the exact way that a camera would reproduce it, then it won't look right. It'll look flat, because that's what a photograph is. It's a flat image. So we exaggerate the perspective more than is realistic, and we also use little tricks like thickening of lines in order to sell that depth. So a lot of these little tips and tricks you pick up along the way, which might not make a lot of logical sense, but they make a big difference to the image and selling it as a 3-dimensional space. So this has basically been an overview of the thumbnailing and the penciling process that I go through. I haven't really gone into detail about sort of how to draw individual things or stuff like that, but mostly how it relates to sequential art in comic books. If there is anything in particular you want me to touch more on or explain, leave a comment. I'll answer all the comments. If there's enough sort of different points that people want more information on, I'll do another video addressing each of those in more detail. So if there's anything in particular that you want me to focus on, or there's something that you're struggling with that you might need some examples of or an explanation, if I can help, then yeah, I'll do another video at the end of this series to cover those questions. And this is the final penciled page. So in the next episode, I'm going to take you through how to actually scan this into the computer to import it using a regular scanner, not an A3 scanner, so an undersized scanner. I'll take you through that, how to align that, and then set up a template for your inking and digital colours, take you through the inking process, and then get that all laid in with the details, and then set ourselves up in ways that will actually make our lives easier during the colour flatting and colouring part of the process, by doing some few things that don't really take us any time during the inking phase, but that will save us a lot of time come the colouring phase. So make sure to subscribe here. ready for part 2, which will be coming out very soon. There's also some other things on our channel. We've got a podcast, Two Evil Scoundrels, where we talk about all elements of creating your own comic book, going to Comic Cons, things like that, even character design. So you can check them out on our channel now. If you want to pick up London Gothic, which is the page that I've been working on for London Gothic Chapter 3, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 are available on our website right now. And we do full international delivery, so you can get it no matter where you are. So I'll see you next time.